Hey, let's chat about your wake-up call. What is it, right? Welcome to Goose Pond Hideout. I'm Rob, and I want to chat with you today real quick about, finding your wake-up call, having your wake-up call. What is your wake-up call? And that gets you, that motivates you to, quit your job, move, retire, do whatever it is that will really make you happy and get out of that hamster wheel of life, the rat race, and do what you really want to do that's going to make you happy. And so I was thinking about that, and I think, let me share a little bit about my life story and hopefully that'll motivate you to think about your wake-up call and be able to do what it is that you want to do when you want to be doing it, right? So when I was really young, after college age, living up in Wisconsin, up in northern Wisconsin, and hey Tank, come here buddy, say hi to everybody. Tank hates being held. But he follows me around like a puppy dog. So I was living up in Wisconsin and was working at a store in retail it was a local store up in northern Wisconsin, and this is way back in the 1979, 1980, and it was like a Kmart or a Walmart, but small, and again way back around 1980. And I decided that really wasn't what I wanted to do, and so I started looking for jobs and hooked up with a headhunter person. And I ended up taking a corporate job down in suburban Chicago. So we moved down to Chicago, and we were living in the suburbs of Chicago, and I was doing my corporate job, and I was really getting into the corporate thing. You know how they suck you in, they tell you what a wonderful job you're doing, patting you on the back and giving you raises and some promotions, and it's all just funny paper stuff, but they suck you in. And I was really getting into it. And when I was a child, before school and before I headed off to college, is I grew up in a family business that my grandfather started. So from 4 years old up till I left for college, and I even came back, when I came home on the summers, I even worked a little bit for my grandpa. But so home, little tiny family business. And then I got sucked into the corporate world and was really digging it and thinking, this is life, promotions, raises, telling me how wonderful I'm doing, and eating in the cafeterias and playing golf in Wednesday afternoon after work, and really a great thing. And then what happened is the parent company sold the division that I worked for in suburban Chicago to a company out in California. And they said, there aren't really going to be any jobs for anybody in the business here. And, I'm going to say there were about 300 of us at that division. I'm somewhere in that ballpark. And so in 6 months' time, as the transfer took over, none of us would have jobs. But hey, you'll get a severance check before you leave. And that was my original, really first wake-up call, that what you think of is a secure, stable job in a Fortune 200 company in the United States really isn't. That even though you're working for a big company and you're making good money for the time and getting promotions and raises and all of that, your job could be gone in an instant. And again, this was back in, the early 80s. So that was where I said, this is never going to happen to me again. That was my big wake-up call, that I am never, ever going to work in corporate America again. I'm going to work for myself. So I went back to school and earned some, an extra degree or two. School was always pretty easy for me. So, I decided to do that. And then I started my own business. We moved to Maine, and I started my own business up in Maine. And you know, that was really a good thing. And then I got sucked into that hamster wheel rat race of operating a small business, and it just consumes all your time because it's your business, right? It was my business. So my personal life and my business life, you know, were all merged together into one. And I remember one time when I was in my home office working on the weekend, and my oldest daughter coming in and saying, "Dad, you work all the time. When are you gonna, you know, can we do something fun?" And you know, that was another thing that got me thinking about it. And then as I got up into my 40s, had some personal things happen, and that was like my next big wake-up call, is that, you know, this just working, even though I was working for myself, I was just sucked into the work thing, and then the, you know, the big world of rules and regulations and everything was just crashing down on me. And I thought, you know, this, I'm just not happy doing this. And that's when we sold everything that we owned, sold the house, sold the vehicles, sold all our belongings or gave them away. And that's when we moved on to our sailboat. And we lived on the sailboat for 9 years, and we enjoyed that. But you know, that was another chapter in my life. And that's the way I always like to look at my life, is it's like a chapter book. And you know, your childhood chapter book, and then your educational chapter in the book, and then your first job, and then you move on, and as your life progresses, you turn the pages and move on to the next chapter. And Tank, don't rub the tripod there, buddy. Quit rubbing the tripod. If the camera's wiggling, it's because Tank's rubbing the tripod. And so, you know, after 9 years, we said, you know, we're getting older, and living on the sailboat is, come on, buddy, quit rubbing the... And so that's when we bought our homestead. And we've been up here for a little over 10 years now on our homestead. And, you know, we're in... Tank, go on. Go on. Sorry about that. So we're here in our homestead now for about 10 years, 10 plus years. And, you know, we're enjoying that. And, you know, I've always been, my soul, my, you know, the person that I am is always kind of a loner. Do everything yourself kind of a thing. And in my family, we always called it being the jack of all trades. Because a lot of people will say, you know, I've gotten comments on some of my recent videos about things like, you know, I just pay $500 and get a tank full of oil, and then I don't have to worry about heating my house all winter. And that, you know, like the woods behind me here, chopping the firewood, cutting down the trees, and cutting the trees up into sections, and then, you know, splitting it and stacking it and letting it dry and bringing it in the house and loading the wood stove, you know, and all of that is a lot of hard work. And it'd be a lot easier to go to a job and, you know, earn $50, $75, $100,000 a year and just pay for stuff. But that doesn't make me happy. And I'm assuming that that probably doesn't make you happy either, that you kind of want to be on your own, and you want to be responsible for yourself, and you want to have a, you know, certain level, whatever it is, of self-sufficiency, in that I know that we can heat our house no matter what. And I know that we can grow a certain amount of our food. I mean, we still shop, and there's no way that we're anywhere close to 100%, you know, food productive. And we still, you know, buy a lot of things at the store, food-wise. But we wouldn't starve to death, kind of thing. And that's just all, you know, what playing into, you know, the kind of person that you want to be. And I like doing things myself and going to a job. And I'm sure, you know, I could earn a good wage. Well, maybe not now, but, you know, at my age, and is, you know, the world is looking. But, you know, 20 years ago, when I was in my 40s, I certainly could have earned you know, I was making a good wage at my business, and it would be a lot easier to just make money and pay for stuff. But then, you know, the government's taking a big chunk of your money, and in today's uncertain world. You know, what happens if heating oil's not available? You know, what happens if the grid goes down? It's just all those what if kinds of things. I like to know that I'm responsible for me and my family, and you know, we can take care of ourselves. So those are just the kinds of things whatever level of independence and self-sufficiency and freedom you want for yourself, I want you to achieve that. So, and we're all going to be a little bit different. If you want to work at a job and buy a tank of heat and oil, hey, that's great. I'm happy for you. That's not what I want to do. I want to go out in the woods and cut down the trees and split and chop, or chop and split, or cut and whatever it is, and make my own wood. That's what makes me happy. And the world is just kind of dark these days, and everything is gloom and doom, and you know, World War III and the next disaster waiting to happen. So I want to get up in the morning and drink my cup of coffee and feel good about life. Feel good about my life. I want to feel good about your life. So that's the kind of things that you want to be thinking about. And so mull that over. Let me know what you think about independence and self-sufficiency and freedom and being flexible to do what you want to do when you want to do it in your life, right?